Gamers of Reddit, what's a popular video game that you really just didn't like and why? Lee Carvalho's pudding challenge. Any kind of morgue. I've tried several. It's just something I can never get into. To me it's always the same thing with morgues. Start playing with a few friends. Get addicted to optimize your char. Make him better, get better gear, etc. Slowly start to realize that the gamma play is boring and I'm always doing the same, and finally just stop playing overnight without looking back. I know where my problem lies, and I'm not sure if it's a compliment to those who play it or a total burn on myself. I never feel smart enough. I have a friend who picks it up and within a week is one of the top players. I say, hey, I'm playing this game. Join me. Then he joins, catches up, and passes me. Then I realize that with the amount of time I'm spending in said game, I should be better, high level, etc. But I'm not. I get killed left and right, then lose motivation to even continue cause. Duck it. It's just a ducking game. Sometimes I feel like people dedicate their lives to a game, and those are the people I'm always up against. When people tell me how many games they play and their levels and shit, I just quietly wonder, where do you find that much time? How do you allow yourself to sit in front of a computer/console for that long? Then I realize I also have no motivation to farm, which I feel like is a big part of the game. Any game that you need to farm into advance doesn't appeal to me. You might as well call it time waster. That's how I view it. I hope I added to the conversation. I understand Reddit enough to know that this is probably an unpopular opinion. I own a shit ton of video games that should probably give me more playtime and enjoyability than I've got from them. I give up too easily, but every game I pick up and realize I'm spending too much time with is when I put it down to do something else until the next game comes around. You might enjoy Guild Wars 2. It's very welcoming to casual players who would rather explore and see the content than grind. Basically everything repetitive in the game is completely optional. There are always alternate ways to get things that affect gamma play. The grind and farming is all for cosmetic things and prestige items. It has a lot more in common with Skyrim than it does most traditional MMOs. If it goes on sale you might want to take a look. I really like Guild Wars 2. Or, I really want to like it. It's a good game with good mechanics and is pretty fun and not horribly grindy. I just can't put my finger on what it's missing to keep drawing me back. It even addresses the issue I have where the cities always feel empty. In GW2, all the cities feel really vibrant. On paper it has everything going for it. It even has a halfway decent story and doesn't require a monthly subscription. I don't get it. I'm sitting here singing the praises of a game and I can't be bothered to play it. I know exactly what you mean. Everything about it is great, but for some reason, I just don't really want to play it. I don't see the appeal in the game. Play of Assassin's Creed. I tried to like it, just couldn't. The first Assassin's Creed game I played was Act 2. Since then, I've played all the Act games but none of those interest me like the second game. Try Act 2. I think you'll like it. Act 1 was an admirable first try. Act 2 was an amazing game. Every game after that got worse and worse. Edit. I have not played Act 4, but I will accept the opinion that it is pretty good. I'll try to pick it up sometime. The only reason I kept buying the games until Revelations was because I cared a lot about Ezio as a character and wanted to finish his story to completion. The present day portions of the games got progressively worse to the point where I would stop caring about Desmond. If that is why you stopped playing, Black Flag didn't have Desmond. It was a first person for the present day thing. The Sims. I thought it was amusing for a couple of minutes, but could not get into it. Sims is the type of game you spend a couple hours playing for maybe 2 to 5 days depending on how into it you are. Then you stop for weeks or months, and then one day you think about it and play again for a couple days and the cycle continues. Exactly this. I go through cycles where I want nothing more than to play Sims and then I'll avoid the game for months at a time. Same here. But change months to years. About every 2 years, I'll get super mega into it for a week and a half, then just suddenly stop. Story of this thread. I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. Well, At least it's better than you are wrong. And can eat my entire ass. Apostrophe. I just can't understand the appeal behind League of Legends for the life of me. I really don't think it's for everyone. Personally, I've always enjoyed being able to focus on one specific game for a long period of time without playing anything else. So when I came across League, it just felt right for me. I'm also constantly brought back for its competitive nature and the feeling that you get of progression. It feels more like the game lets you progress at your own pace, and instead of marking said progression with levels, you feel a more intangible sense of your own improvement. To be honest, though, the community is disgustingly toxic, so I understand why many avoid the game. From all the money they make, sports games are popular, but I don't enjoy them at all. NBA Jam is actually super fun cause it's so unrealistic. From downtown. He's on fire. Boom shakalaka. Is it the shoes? Minecraft. I tried so hard to get into it, and I just couldn't. That game just couldn't hold my attention. Legos hold my attention. Minecraft does not. I'm the same. Although I have about 70 hours logged into Terraria. I think it's because the crafting/building is a means to go dungeon crawling rather than being the whole game. Terraria isn't similar to Minecraft. Terraria is very combat focused, with Minecraft having rather boring combat. As someone else said, Minecraft is a sandbox game with some RPG element. Terraria on the other hand is a RPG with some sandbox element. Nice. I'm gonna use that. I've always failed to explain to people why it isn't just 2D Minecraft. I have never been able to get into the Final Fantasy series. I tried to play FFX, but gave up on it. I'm determined to beat FF7 before the remastered version drops. Wish me luck. At this point, wait until the remaster remake. As a huge fan of the game, I still think the old version is incredibly dated at this point. Edit a word. Honestly, I'm pretty worried about the remaster. I know that FF7 is dated, but I'm concerned that updating it will just make it play like a modern Final Fantasy, which I'm personally not too keen on. I mean, FF7 with voice acting, I'm assuming. I can imagine little else that could ruin it more for me. I do appreciate though that playing dated games can be tricky to get into. My personally recommendation, FFIX. It's aged fairly well, and it's got the most charm out of the games I've played. After seeing people drooling over The Witcher 3, I picked up The Witcher 2 to try and get into the series. So far I think the story's pretty cool, but I just really don't like the gameplay. I hated Witcher 2. I couldn't get into it for the life of me. My wife loved to watch me play RPGs for the story, and she kept putting it in and making me play. It felt like a chore. My wife bought Witcher 3 on release, and I started playing it. When my son lays down for a nap I'll be putting it back in. I'm hundreds of hours deep, and I've still got the itch. League of Legends. I just can't get into it. I feel like it's really hard to get into because you can't practice without your teammates getting pissy because you're not a great player. That's why I quit playing. Even my friends were bitches when we played. Something about MOBAs just brings out the worst in people. Massive online bitch attractions. Destiny. Thought it was boring. Lack of varied gameplay. Zero mechanics. Small maps just not good at all. Wish I'd never bought it. Also never been a fan of Call of Duty. Battlefield is definitely more my bag. Agree. Was really excited about it, but it's just so repetitive. Yeah, Destiny is so brazen about the grind and the SP campaign was a farce. I just lost patience with the whole experience. Looks like you lost your patience and time. Don't be such a thorn in their side. Oh, he's just trying to get the last word. The Battlefield series has a fantastic multiplayer, and I understand why people love it. But the playstyle is not really for me. Plus the campaigns have been really bland throughout most of the series. Have you played Bad Company 2's campaign? The combat is enjoyable and the story is really light-hearted and silly. Next time it's on sale it is definitely worth a pickup just for the campaign. This is probably my favorite in the entire franchise. Still waiting for them to put out another one. Not only was the campaign great, but something just clicked with the multiplayer that made it fantastic. The gameplay was amazing. Bad Company 2 Vietnam was also a really good game. I didn't like the later Battlefield games, 4+. They just didn't feel the same to me, but my friends sure loved them. Bad Company 2 was where I experienced some of the most fun and goal-oriented multiplayer of my life. The new Battlefield games are fun and all, but you can't beat Rush on Erica Harbor or Oasis, Rush on Port Valdez. We were attacking the MCOM stations and had already detonated the one located in the 2-story house on the right. All we had left was the MCOM and the ditch in the middle of the map. We were all getting demolished by the turret in the construction building and the sniper in the 2-story house, letting the rest of the defensive team take up positions around the fence at the top of the ditch. We were down to one ticket left. The rest of our team decided to camp at the top of the mountain instead of playing the objective. In hindsight, it's a good thing they did. My squad though, we wanted to keep playing. There were 3 of us in the squad. Me, OTech, and Revolution. Revolution decided to reckon from the mountain and rain down mortar fire on the 2-story house while me and OTech headed into town on the quad bike. We charge into town running over a guy. OTech hops off at the small pile of lumber while I crash in to ditch next to the MCOM. OTech downs a guy at the far side of a ditch while taking cover behind the lumber. I knife a guy hiding beside the MCOM, set off some smoke with my undislung grenade launcher, and start arming the MCOM. Someone on top of the mountain hits the turret in construction building with an RPG as I run back towards OTech behind the lumber. From there we both start picking off anyone that comes through the smoke to disarm the MCOM. There were droves of the opposing team rushing to the MCOM. It was goddamn pandemonium. I tell you, what felt like an eternity and a hailstorm of gunfire and grenade explosions. Probably no more than 30 seconds. Ended as soon as the MCOM exploded and the map expanded to the next stage. Never has a gaming experience brought out so much emotion from me. When I realized we had did it, our squad went in and kicked ass for those 30 seconds, but I will remember it for the rest of my life. That was my gamer story of Port Valdez. World of Warcraft, please don't hate me. Close bracket. I played City of Heroes before trying WoW and Coach just ruined my expectations for games. I absolutely loved the way it worked and just can't get info the WoW game engine. Mobs seem to be that your first one is always your favorite. Played WoW first. Could never get into another one ever for the next 9 years. Now you understand why there is a hard, solid line of 7 million players for WoW. Yup, I have a feeling most of those don't want to lose 10 years or so of gameplay. Like me, I think it's Marizo people don't want to leave their friends. Kind of a Google Plus situation, where there's a better alternative but no one wants to leave Facebook, because that's where everyone they know is, I suppose. But I honestly don't think there is a better alternative. That might just be me, but I didn't like any other MOS. I tried Worldster, GW2, Star Wars, the Final Fantasy 1 and Archeage. Any FIFA game. The controls just feel clumsy, and it just never clicked with me. I like soccer, but I hate FIFA. I like soccer, but I hate FIFA. This statement also applies to real life. Call of Duty Black Ops. Well, more specifically, the campaign. I started to wonder if it was popular only because of zombies. That is still my favorite Call of Duty game. I'm surprised I still play it to this day. And I think you're right about the zombies thing. Zombies was a huge pull for Cody at this point. The multiplayer was fun, but really didn't bring anything new to the table other than balancing out some mechanics, so that all the MW2 MLGs didn't come over and wreck everyone. I personally really enjoyed the campaign and WoW was my baby, so having Reznov come back, and the level where you get to see Dimitri was fantastic. Again, nothing overly earth-shattering, but I would chalk it up as my favorite Cody game as well. Dishonored. I tried so hard. It has so much I like in it, and I should enjoy it, but I just can't. I think you have to really appreciate stealth to get the most out of it. As a combat game it's a little too easy as you're overpowered from a few levels in until the end. I felt the same. I tried playing with stealth takedowns the first time, but I found it boring. So I tried again using all the combat tools, and it was too easy. So a year later I decided to just give it one more go and do a full-on ghost run. That is when the game finally felt fun for me. Looking at the upcoming Dishonored 2, I think I'm going to start with a ghost run with no upgraded magic abilities. Dishonored's ghost run is great. Unfortunately, after spending a week meticulously making sure I was never seen and never attacked anyone, I didn't get the achievement at the end. I've been meaning to try again, but goddamn. CTRL plus F Metal Gear. No results. Bless this thread. Edit. Guys, I agree with all the gripes. I love the games, but the 3 C's are always problems. Controls, cinematics, and I forgot the third between leaving work and reaching my keyboard. If the game has the president of the US surfing a Harrier jet while a vampire is piloting it, then you know that game is freaking rad. Damn. Forgot about all that. Time to plug in the old PS2. Ark. Survival Evolved. It's just too hard of a game. 90% of a beginner's time is spent getting enough resources to build a house, then calling it a day because you've played enough, logging out in your newly constructed house, only to come on the next day to everything destroyed and your character dead because some arsehole who's been playing the game for months decides he doesn't like your house. Then you get to start over again. Maybe you'll be killed by a surprise Rex while wandering about, be chasing some prey and accidentally hit a larger dino, be rushing along and fall off a cliff, or just plain die of dehydration or starvation because your area has nothing in it. Then you get to start over again, and again, and again, and again, and again. I don't understand why people are buying all of these early access internet asshole simulators. Because private servers exist, and when you take the arsehole out of the equation it becomes an amazingly fun game. Civilization series. Find it exhausting, but somehow I adored Crusader Kings 2nd. I used to love the Civ games and similar, but after playing Paradox games like CK and EU, I can't go back. Played Victoria 2, made the Republic of Texas into a communist nation. No other game can beat that. The Republic of Transvaal was the most powerful and advanced nation at the dawn of the 20th century in my game. Controlled 80% of Africa and defeated the Royal Navy off the Cape before invading Brazil. I wish I liked Rockstar's games. Red Dead Redemption, the GTA franchise. These games are clearly amazing. I can see that when I attempt the most objective glance I can muster, they're insanely ambitious. The mechanics are at worst passable and often good. The world is gargantuan. There's so much to do. The narrative is very good in at least some of the games, with great voice acting to boot. But by god, if realistic serious open world just does not do it for me. Give me any fantasy or sci-fi game of similar scope. Hell, give me Saints Row, from 2 onward, even, and I love it. But for some reason I just get bored immediately by RDR and GTA, even though they are clearly incredible, and seem to me like the sort of game I should like. Give a shot to LA Noire. It has an atmosphere like no other game. Relatively short, massively story driven, and fucking gorgeous. Especially if you like old cars and jazz. One of my favorite things in LA Noire is the ability to skip driving from place to place. After a while it just gets old, and it's nice to be able to get your partner to drive instead and just have a quick loading screen. Yeah, that was a great feature. Driving in that game was never really the point, and any missions that required driving really pulled me out of the story. So I appreciated the ability to skip it and get back to the core gameplay again. I like driving everyone on a second playthrough though, because you get all of those side cases and it feels like there is a ton of new content. Also usually good conversations, if you don't crash all the time. Final Fantasy. Partly because I just hate turn-based RPGs and partly because they just never grabbed my attention enough to actually bother with them. Which is odd, because I'm very much an RPG fan. I love Western RPGs, but I just can't get into JRPGs. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but I've tried several times and I can never stay interested. I think it's, in part because I feel like they're too melodramatic and whimsical. Even Skyrim, a game where you're fluent in dragon and can shoot magic, the game still feels relatively familiar to reality. There are governments, rebels, thieves and farmers, and the stories of their lives are just accentuated by the fantasy. To me, the aptly named Final Fantasy indulges too much into the fantastical aspects, and I just can't buy into a story where the complexity of the plot reaches so much further than the depth of the characters. Again, completely my opinion, but it always feels like I'm just expected to believe right from the start that these beautiful children's lives are the most important thing in the world, and yet I can never relate to them. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.